You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better. I'm an easy target.
Yeah, you're right. I talk too much. I also listen too much.
Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me.
My wife likes me. My customers like me. Because I'm the real article. What you see is what you get.
Movie references.
Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year. Halloween is my personal favorite. But what about Thanksgiving? You can count the number of films made in the spirit of the holiday on one hand, and all of them pale in comparison to the one true king. On November 25th, 1987, the great and powerful John Hughes released what would immediately become the #1 Turkey Day movie of all time. The film starred Steve Martin and John Candy as polar opposites, cast to perfection, made on a budget of $15 million, and ultimately grossed about $50 million. It is infinitely rewatchable, endlessly quotable, and truly stands the test of time from both a comedy and a filmmaking perspective. The film was shot all throughout the state of Illinois and was seen as a welcome change of pace for the filmmaker, who had up to that point been known mostly for his angsty teen comedies, such as The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's a perfect film made by a writing genius, starring two of the greatest comedy performers of all time. But don't take my word for it. Just sit back, turn on your vibrating bed, crack open a tequila and a bag of Doritos, and enjoy the ultimate Thanksgiving masterpiece: Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Why did you kiss my ear?
Why are you holding my hand?
Where's your other hand?
Between two pillows.
Those aren't pillows.
What's up, beautiful people? I'm Zach, and you're watching Zach Makes Movies, the channel where we talk about...
You guessed it, Frank Stallone.
Well, it's that time of year again. One of the best holidays. Possibly the second best holiday. Thanksgiving. We're nearing the end of the month of November, which means Christmas is coming. Hope I can find some movies to talk about then. Now, in the month of October, it was easy enough to figure out movies to talk about. And next month will be just as easy. But November's a tricky one. Last week we talked about the Rocky series. But when it comes to Thanksgiving, there's one movie that stands above the rest. John Hughes' masterpiece, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This film stars the great Steve Martin.
I have this on the whole time?
And the even greater John Candy.
I know you, don't I? I'm usually very good with names, but I'll be damned if I haven't forgotten yours.
A match made in comedy heaven. These two are absolutely brilliant together, and this movie truly stands the test of time. It is one of the funniest films I've ever seen. It's one of the most heartfelt films I've ever seen. It's a perfect combination of genre. It's also a road trip movie, which is always very fun. And on top of all else, it's the ideal Thanksgiving holiday movie.
Love is not a big enough word.
The movie came out in 1987. It stars Steve Martin as Neil Page and John Candy as Del Griffith. It's about a man who works in advertising who's trying to get home to Chicago from New York City at the last minute. Due to a series of misfortunes, it becomes incredibly difficult for him to get home. He winds up tethered to a polar opposite personality to himself in Del Griffith, played by the great John Candy. John Candy was a one-of-a-kind comedy actor, and frankly, so is Steve Martin. But when you put the two together, you get absolute comedic gold, the likes of which we've never really seen anywhere else. The movie begins with a very funny sequence. It's a very unique and clever introduction. It shows Steve Martin at the advertising agency waiting for the boss to make a final decision. Finally, they get out of there, and Ferris Bueller's dad tells him he's never going to make the 6.
I'll see you in Chicago, John.
You'll never make the 6.
Steve Martin ends up in a race for a cab with a young Kevin Bacon, which he winds up losing. Before attempting to hail another cab, which is then stolen by John Candy.
All right, you son of a bitch, this is my cab, ow!
Finally, he arrives at the airport. He manages to get on a plane. And who is he sitting next to? John Candy.
Look, I don't want to be rude, but I'm not much of a conversationalist.
Don't let me stand in your way. Please don't let me stand in your way. The last thing I want to be remembered as is an annoying blabbermouth. You know, nothing grinds my gears worse than some chowderhead who doesn't know when to keep his big trap shut.
Del Griffith is a lovable lunk who just wants to talk throughout the flight. We've all sat next to one of them. He is also mildly disgusting. He's making a lot of gross noises.
Sorry.
And just annoying the hell out of Steve Martin.
I mean, didn't you notice on the plane when you started talking, eventually I started reading the vomit bag?
Who gives him every hint in the book to stop talking to him. This gives us an opportunity for some more comedy gold.
Oh. That feels better.
And things only get worse from there.
$6 and my right nut says we're not landing in Chicago.
The duo decides to share a motel for the night. Del uses some of his sales expertise to finagle a room for the two of them, and they end up sharing a bed in one of the great comedy scenes of all time.
You want to take a shower?
No.
No, I meant if you want to go first or not.
The room is robbed, which sets them against each other. Initially, Neil thinks that Del stole his money, but Del is merely a humble shower curtain ring salesman. He would never do something like that. Another beloved scene starring another great actor from Ferris Bueller, Edie McClurg, plays a car rental agent whose extremely chipper attitude perfectly plays against Steve Martin, who is at this point miserable. And we get this incredible sequence here.
Welcome to Marathon. May I help you?
You can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. And I really didn't care to fucking walk down a fucking highway and across a fucking runway. I want a fucking car right fucking now.
Boy.
Oh boy, what?
You're fucked.
As a kid, there were few scenes in cinema that I thought were funnier than that, for obvious reasons. Another great iconic scene in this movie is the car that they're driving is just slowly getting more and more beat up. There's an incredible scene. Del Griffith takes the wheel, Neil goes to sleep. He's listening to Mess Around by Ray Charles. And winds up getting stuck in his sweater, which causes them to spin out. The car ends up on fire, and things just get worse and worse.
How could you rent the thing anyway without a credit card?
Somehow your Diners Club card wound up in my wallet. I found it in my wallet!
I knew you stole it!
I thought you put it there! Why would I put it there?
You could have killed me punching me in the gut like that. That's how Houdini died, you know. Later on, they end up getting pulled over by a state trooper, who I think is played by Michael McKean from Better Call Saul, if I remember correctly.
You have any idea how fast you were going?
I was just talking to my friend about that. Our speedometer's melted, and as a result, it's very hard to say with any degree of accuracy.
Do you feel this vehicle is safe for highway travel?
Yes, I do.
And Dylan Baker has a small role as well. He's the guy driving the truck who spits on his hand directly before shaking Steve Martin's hand.
Yeah, Del Griffith. How are you? This is Neil Page from Chicago. Hi.
The screenplay for the film does a fantastic job of balancing these two characters against each other and balancing their relationship, going back and forth between Steve Martin truly despising John Candy's character and feeling sorry for him, feeling guilty for snapping.
Why do I feel like I'm at summer camp?
Del is a nice guy, but he is constantly making things worse for both of them. Steve Martin is hilarious as the asshole in this movie. My favorite line is when he says,
And by the way, when you're telling these little stories, have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
and then Del accuses him of playing with his balls too much. The scene when they're driving, we're jumping all over the place here, but the scene when they're on the highway at night and the couple is trying to warn them that they're going the wrong way.
He says we're going the wrong way.
Oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going?
Very funny. The film wraps up beautifully. Steve Martin is finally going to get home to his family. He's imagining the reunion, the delicious meal he's going to have for Thanksgiving, and then suddenly he's struck by a realization.
I've been spending too much time away from home. I haven't been home in years.
And he decides to turn back. And he finds Del sitting by himself at the train station. And that's when we get this final heartbreaking reveal.
You said you were going home. What are you doing here?
I don't have a home.
And like any great film, the mood shifts once again. John Hughes was an absolute master at this. He could make you laugh and cry within 60 seconds. Not me, I'm strong, I'm a man.
Marie's been dead for 8 years.
So anyway, the movie wraps up really beautifully, and we get this final reunion with the family. It's extremely dramatized, so I would imagine Steve Martin must have given his wife a heads up before arriving at home. But the final shot is just so perfect, and I love the idea of having one of the funniest movies of all time end on a really sweet note. I think that's something that we've kind of lost over the years. Not that there's a lot of comedy films anymore at all, but when we do get a good comedy, it generally does not end on a sweet note. It ends on a final joke, which is fine, and that's probably what I would do, frankly. But I think there's something really special about this type of film, and I think honestly that's part of the reason that it's really stood the test of time the way that it has. There is no Thanksgiving movie like this. The closest second would be Eli Roth's Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is an institution here.
Similar, but different. Before we wrap up, I just want to show this one clip of Steve Martin talking about his old friend John Candy.
John Candy was very sensitive and very complex, and we really loved each other. We're at a train station, and he gives an entire explanation of his life. And I was opposite him. I was like weeping as he was performing it. And it was all cut. And so I don't know why it was cut, except for tempo, and maybe you're at the end and you don't want to hear a long speech. It was cut down to a line or two.
There was a line I loved. It says, I sort of attach myself to people from time to time, like with you, especially around the holidays. I can take it in March, July, October, but it gets hard. And then he said, this time I couldn't let go.
Well, that's all for today, folks. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Gobble, gobble.
Remember to talk politics with your family. That's always the best part. And let me know in the comments what other movies you want me to talk about. I got another one that'll be coming out in a few days that I think is sort of relevant to the holiday, another one of my favorites, and we may just have a special guest on that one, so stay tuned for that. If you want to watch more videos like this, you can check out some of these and hop onto my channel. I don't know what you like. This is a guess. Happy Thanksgiving. Go fuck yourself. Shit, no, I wasn't supposed to end it on a joke. What would John Hughes do? Oh, I know.
Go on.